Task Manager has been around in Windows Server and Workstation for the last couple of decades. Let's go ahead and take a look at Task Manager in Windows Server 2016. So we'll right-click on the taskbar and choose Task Manager. Let's click on More Details, and we'll expand it so we can see all of it. So in 2016, we see the CPU and memory by default is showing up right in the Processes tab. Now, if we right-click anywhere on one of these two boxes, we can also add additional boxes as well, such as the process ID, the status, etc. There we go. Let's go ahead and take those last two out just so we can keep moving forward here. I'd like to leave the process ID in. I'll show you how that ties together to some of the other tabs. If we decide we want to see what's using up all of our memory, we can click on the memory at the top and it shows us what's using the most amount of memory. And we can see here it's the DNS service. So we'll go ahead and expand that. So at this point we have to decide if we're going to add more memory or if it's acceptable to run at 64% memory. I would say it'd probably be a good idea to add more memory. We can also see, in case the CPU is being pegged at say 100%, in this case it's at 1%, so it's fine. Just by clicking on it, you can see the order in which the different applications are using the processor. And if you decide to just go by name, you can click on name, and now it'll just go alphabetically to show you what applications and background processes, etc., are running. If we go to performance, we can see a lot more information. We see the CPU broken out by itself, the memory, and it's all shown graphically. We also see the Ethernet traffic, which nothing is really going on right now. Now, if you want to see even more detail, you can click on Open the Resource Monitor, and you can go ahead and see the individual applications and what each of them are doing as far as disk usage, network, memory, and CPU. Well, let's go ahead and close that and go back to the Task Manager, and you can look at that on your own a little later. Let's click on Users. Users shows us who's logged into our computer. And this is actually very useful, especially if you think you might have been hacked, someone's logged into your computer that shouldn't be. You can go to this tab and see if that's the case. You can also expand the users and see all the different applications associated with that user. If we click on Details, it shows all the executable files that are currently running on the server. So you can see a .exe after each one of these names. It also shows us whether or not the application is running or if it's suspended. So we can see these two particular applications are suspended, these are running, and it shows you CPU information, memory. A lot of the stuff is duplicated from some of the other tabs. One of the things I like to see is the process ID. So the process ID is also showing up here in Details as it is here in Processes. If we click on Services, we also see the process ID itself. Now, these services match up to the services if you go into Server Manager, Tools, and then you go down to Services. So it's the exact same services you would see there. And you can do the same thing, such as you can restart them, you can stop them, etc. However, the difference is that in the services from the Tools menu, it spells everything out for the names. However, here it shows the shortcut name, or the executable name that starts the service. If you double-click on any one of the services here, then you can see some of the more detailed information, such as the service name here. You see AXINSTSV, which should match up to the same thing right here in this particular tab, Services, under Task Manager. So one of the things that happens a lot of times is a service will get stuck. Instead of running or stopped, it'll say stopping or starting. We can click on status to see that. Now, we don't have any services currently like that, but in the past what we've had to do is to just restart the server. And in a lot of cases that's just not a good idea because we may be in the middle of the workday. So what we can do is something a little different. Let's go ahead and just pretend that this particular service that we're going to click on, DFS namespace, is in the stopping or starting mode. We can right click on that and we can choose to go to Details. So watch what happens when I click Go to Details. It jumps to the Details tab and it shows us the executable that's currently running. So from here we can kill that executable, which will cause the service to stop or restart. So if I right-click on that, we can choose End Task. Go ahead and End Task. And now when we go back to Services, we can go back to the DFS. We'll go ahead and refresh. And we'll go to Stopped. And we see DFS namespace is stopped. Let's go ahead and start it up. We can also use the process ID if we sort by process ID to any particular application that may be not responding. So sometimes when we go into processes here and we sort by process ID, we see a process that is not responding. It'll actually say not responding right next to the name of it. So what we can do is we can match up that process ID number to the services or the details process ID. And from there we can stop or restart the service or the executable that's tied to that process. So all these things tie back to the process ID. So that gives you a little bit of an inside look into the Task Manager in Windows Server 2016.